on the data model topic. So let me quickly recap what we have done in the last session. So we are actually creating one custom data model. So for that one, MDG, IMG, and we created one data model here. YP is the data model that we created. YP is the data model that we created. Okay. So so data model is nothing but it's a collection of entities. So that is what we discussed in the last session. So we'll have something called a data model. In our case, the name of the data model is YP, which contains some entities, entity one, and then another entity two, entity three. So multiple entities, and in turn, each entity contains collection of attributes, attribute 1, attribute 2, and attribute 3. So something like the other entities also. And when you have more than one entity, so we need to define the relation between these two entities. Okay. So what we have done in the last session, we created one data model, and we created yprod is a one entity we created. And while creating the entity, so the most important parameter that we need to set is storage and use type. So there are four type of storage and use types are there. So this is as we also call this as a SU type. So SU type 1, SU type 2, SU type 3, SU type 4. So there are four storage types are there. Out of these four, we discussed about SU type 1 and SU type basic SU type 4. No, we just discussed about SU type 1. Okay, so SU type 1 is always okay. So SU type 1 means it's a parent entity. So when you are defining, when you are creating any entity, and when you're setting it as a SU type 1, so that indicates that it's a parent entity. So parent entity nothing but basically the main attributes are this will become your main entity. Okay, so that is in Mara in material master. So you'll have Mara as a table, which is a main table, and after that once the Mara data gets created, and after that the plant or sales or the other table entries will get created, right? So in the same way, your material for the material type 1 entity always defines that is your main entity, parent entity or topmost entity. Okay, so that is what actually you define it as a SU type 1. Okay, and after when you if you look at the description, changeable via change request. So that means in MDG world, if at all you wanted to change any master data, you will be creating a something called change request. So when you're creating a change request, that particular change request will be representing the particular changes that you are doing in that particular instance, and the entire end-to-end changes will be tracked using that particular change request number. So the change request number, always you will change your type 1 entity data using the change request only. Without change request, you cannot change the data. And for type 1, system also generates the staging tables. So we also saw that in the last session, the staging tables for type 1. Okay, so once you define it as a type 1, we saw that the generated staging table as well. Okay, now the other things that we discussed, the language dependent text, when you are selecting this checkbox, and it will generate another staging table to store your languages descriptions in multiple languages. Similarly, for attachment, there will be one more staging table get created. And if at all you wanted to assign any search help, you can assign a search helps over here for this particular material. So deletion, whether this entity can be deleted or not, description of your entity. So some of the attributes that we maintained at the we defined for this particular at the entity type level. And whenever you are creating a type 1 entity, then data element is mandatory, because this particular entity name, okay, system will generate a staging table for this entity by taking all the attributes. Along with that one, this entity itself will become the key attribute in the generated staging table. That's why for the generated staging table, we also need to mention the key, the data element. That's why we need to provide the data element over here. And once you define these settings, then after that we added couple of attributes under this particular type 1 entity. So in total there are 3 non-key attributes, plus you also have one. This itself will become a key attribute in the staging table. So that way you will have in total there are 4 attributes in the generated staging table. And if you look at the staging table /n mdg underscore data underscore model is the T code where you can provide your data model. Ours is YP is the custom data model. And when you execute this, so this is the first one, check table. Always remember this subtype. This subtype defines this is check table, means this is a main staging table generated for your entity. And the text subtype is text, means it's a text table. When you select the language dependent text, the checkbox, so the text table will get generated. And these are the attachment. When you select that attachment one, these attachment related staging tables also will get created. Okay, and your entity type is this one. So this is your entity type name, and it's a table type, and the type of that particular table, whether it's a check table or text table or attachments. And the SAP has provided one logical name, and this is the actual physical staging table that got generated in the back end. Okay, so if you double click this one, it will take you to SE11 object only. So this is your entity name, and these are the attributes added by the MDG framework. And from here, you will see the 3 attributes that we added at the entity level, and created by, created on, changed by, changed on. This also will be added by MDG framework framework for the generated staging tables. Okay, so now your type 1 is created. Okay, so now let me quickly show you here the material master UI, how it look like. Okay, /o. So NWBC is the NWBC NetWeaver business client. NWB is that transaction code where you can actually go and check that the UI applications, basically the home pages. Okay, so I'll copy this URL. I'll try to open up in browser, Edge browser. In sometimes what happens is when you open this NWBC, right, you get, if we try to open in Explorer, it gives an error message saying that this is not supported and you need to switch back to Edge. So in that case, just copy that. Though you got that error message, so okay, here you can actually switch back to copy. See, copy this link and paste it in an Edge browser. Okay, so it asks for the user ID. Okay, so this is a test system. That's why I have all these roles. But usually SAP come up with the default out-of-box roles for material master business partners, and those roles will be assigned to the particular user. So either those roles you can see here when you go when you enter that NWBC transaction code, you will find all the roles that are assigned to you. Okay, and from there you can directly click the link. It will take you to that particular the home page. Okay, so similarly for material master, this is the latest homepage for material master. SAP is provided SAP underscore MDGM underscore menu underscore 09. Okay, security will be assigning this particular role to our user IDs in general. Okay, so if I click that NWBC, it will directly take me to that particular page. Okay, so this is a home page. You can look at, this is a material governance home page. Okay, so all material master related activities you can perform over here from MDG point of view. This was provided as part of MDG for material master homepage. Okay, now if you look at this homepage, you can see different sections on this particular UI. So the top one, this is a section where you can actually play around with the individual materials. Like you can search a material, You can create a material, you can change an existing material, you can actually mark for that particular any material, you can mark for delete. Okay. And the second section talks about the processing of multiple processing of multiple materials. You can process the multiple materials over here, where you can perform the bulk operations or mass changes, where you can initiate those using file upload. So SAP has provided some out of box mass apps over here. After that, you can see this particular information related to your change requests and change documents. This is basically for a tracking purpose. Like you can see, as I said earlier, whenever you are creating a material or changing a material, in fact, any master data, system will generate a change request number. So that's how, even if you look at your type 1 entity, the description says that the data can be changed via change request process only. Okay. So for every change, system will associate some unique number to that particular change. And you can actually, from here, you can look at your workflow inbox. If anything that is pending for your approval, the change request that you created, you can look at the particular change request number. If you have the change request number and you wanted to see the status, you can go through this particular link, and you can look at that all change documents, who modified what, and all the change logs you can actually find over here. So basically this section is for you to perform the mass operations. We'll go through these mass operations and everything. Okay. And you also have some kind of analytical reports over here, where you can see how many materials, how many CS created in last 1 month or 1 week or last probably 6 weeks. So you can actually trace, get this information over here. It gives a kind of analytical reports in terms of your change requests. How many of them met SLA, how many of them not doesn't meet SLA. And in the down, you can see the data replication. This section talks about replicating your master data to multiple target systems. And this data transfer section talks about how you can actually load the data into your MDG system. Okay. So we'll go through each of these sections. At this point of time, our intention is how we can actually create a while creating this data model, right? That means we are creating a staging table, staging area. We are defining the staging area, staging tables for that one. Okay. So now just to show you that for the type 1 entity, you have the description over here saying that changeable via change request. Okay. So it says that changeable via change request. That means how it look like. That is what I'm just wanted to show you over here. If you go to search material, this is a search application. Okay. So where I can search the materials based on different parameters. You can see based on the material type, you can search based on the material group, you can search based on the plants. So there are a number of attributes are here, and actually you can also configure as per your needs. That means you extended material master with some custom attributes, and your business wants to search the materials based on those custom attributes. So that also you can actually bring your custom attribution also into this particular search parameter scope. So we will discuss this during as part of your data quality topic. Okay. Now assume that as of now, it's a simple search application, and the top section talks about your search input criteria. And in the down section, it talks about result. Based on your search, it will show you the result in the down. Okay. Now you also have certain activities. You can perform some certain actions over here. New is there. That means where you can actually go and create a new material. Okay. So likewise, you have to perform mass change, copy. So there are multiple activities that actions you can perform from here. Now let's try to create a material. So when I click this new button over here, this is something like I wanted to create a material. So that means it is equivalent to your MM01 transaction on your ECC side. Okay. So while creating any material, you need to choose something called change request type. So change request type is again, it's a definition of your change request number. Change request number is an instance, and change request type is then where you define a process under a change request type. So likewise, I'll have my I'll have some certain workflow process for creating a materials of finished goods, and I'll have different workflow process for creating materials using for raw materials, okay, and then for semi-finished products. So likewise, if you have different processes for different material types, what you will do is we will create a change request type which defines one process, and I'll create another change request type which defines another process. So that means I'll for all finished products. Now you can see here there are two type of change request types are there. One is the normal change request type sequential workflow. Other one is the parallel workflow. So if I select this one, this is one change request type. We will discuss this change request type concept in process modeling topic. And once you select a particular type, and when you click on OK button, it will take me to material creation screen. And the workflow that I defined under this particular change request type will get started now. Okay, it will open up a material creation screen. So this will be equivalent to your MM01 transaction. You can assume that it's a web version. It's a new system, so it will take some time, couple of minutes to load the UI and everything. Okay, now I can see here, this is, let me collapse everything. Okay, so now this is your material creation screen. Okay, now this topmost one, right, whenever you are doing any change, whether it's a create or change, this topmost section will get added. That is a change request information. So when I expand this particular node, you will see some set of information. What is your change request number? So when I select a change request type, from there it generated on a particular instance, particular number. So now all my changes, this particular material creation process will be tracked using the change request number 462. So this is your I mean, for it can be, you can this actually information within MDG. This is MDG specific information. Okay, so while creating, why you wanted to create this particular material, you can provide the description. Maybe you can say like create raw material for a new plant XYZ, something like that, 1000, something like why you wanted to create this one. Then what is the priority here? Whether is it a high priority or low priority? So you'll just select some information. Then you by when, if by when this CR has to be approved. Okay, so you can provide a due date. So something like that, you will provide some information. This is what we call it as a change request. So that means if you look at the description also, changeable via change request means, changeable means it includes your create and change process also. It via change request process, that means this is a change request process. Now if I ignore this top section, rest all are your material master related application specific data only. You see this basic data, this particular basic data section, you can see here all these attributes. It's a combined view of your, in MM01 you will have basic data view 1 and view 2. There are two tabs are there. Okay, so let me show you here. If I go to MM01, I'll create a material of finished product. Okay, so if I click continue, so this basic data one, there are multiple, whatever the views that you are seeing over here, basic data 1 and 2, you can see here under basic data. Similarly, material descriptions will be there, and you'll have the classification data. Sales one, you can see sales, purchasing. So this is a combined view of your sales org 1 and sales org 2, and even plant related. Similarly for purchasing also, you'll have some more views in that down. Okay, so basically they rearranged the attributes from this particular views into these particular views in MDG version. Okay, so I can maintain the unit of measure, material type, industry sector, material group, all these information I can provide over here along with the material descriptions. Okay. So, and once I'm at a requester level. So what I'm doing, I'm entering this FERT material type, industry sector. Okay, I selected one. Now, if you observe this one, SAP provided some temporary number here. Okay. So in the last session, we discussed about at entity type 1 entity level. Okay. At the type 1 entity level, we have this key assignment. Okay. Let me open material master data model only. You will understand better. I'll go to data model. Okay. I'll open up the type 1 over here, material entity. Okay. If you look at this one, what this key assignment says, key can be changed, internal key assignment possible. That means internal key assignment means system generated this internal number, and it is an MDG internal number. That's why this prefix got added $131. But this particular generated key can be changed. That's why you can see here it is in editable mode, this field. Okay. And also from where this particular $131 number got generated. Okay. Because we have this number range object, BSMDG mat. From this one, it took that next available number as 131 and system added dollar as a prefix. Okay. So we will see even for our application also we'll do all these things. But at this point of time, if you observe this one, I'm creating a material. That's why this change request number got added. This section got added because this is the meaning of your changeable via change request. Without change request, you cannot create a material. Whereas in case of in my normal ECC level, I can go ahead and create my material basic data directly material. I can create a material. Okay. So see, it took the actual, this is the actual material number and there is no MDG layer over here. I'll just maintain some data. And when I finally click the save button, this record gets stored into my Mara table. Whereas in MDG, once you maintain this data and click on submit button, then system will store this information in your staging area. And this 462 number is your reference number for this particular request. In the same way, I can, let me cancel this. Okay. So, okay. So in the same way, I can search with some materials. Let me click on some search. So it will take first 100 requests. You can see the maximum it will pull up 100. So these 100 are the available material numbers. Now, when I open, if at all I wanted to look at this material, the data, you can just click on this hyperlink. This is material number. Okay. When you click on this hyperlink, it will open up the material data in display mode. Okay. Now you see here, when it opened up in a display mode, there is no change request information. It's just like your MM03 concept. Okay. Only when you try to get into an edit mode, that is the time again CR number will get generated, because the change always should happen through change request process, right? For display, there is no change request number associated. So what I will do is I'll click on edit button. Again, it will ask me for the change request type, which CR type. If there is only one CR type available, then it won't ask for that user to choose the CR types, because there is only one available. In previous case, there are two CR types are available. That's why it asks for the user to choose one of the process. Now, system assigned this 463 as the change request number for this particular current changes. Now I can go to basic data. I'll see the existing attributes over here. Now see, but everything will be in editable mode. I can change the values and I can edit the data. So this is what the meaning of changeable via change request. Without change request, you cannot change the data. Okay. Now, going back to our data model. Okay, so we created one type 1 entity. So this type 1 entity contains your material basic attributes, which will be, at the parent or header level. This is just like your sales order. In sales order, you will have header and items. In the same way, here also, this your type 1, you can also compare with your sales order header information. Okay, now after this, now my requirement is I wanted to, once I create the material and I'll maintain the material type and material group, industry sector, the common attributes. And my next requirement is I wanted to add, while creating this material, I wanted to extend this material to multiple plants. That means plant is again separate table in our ECC side, right? So here also plant will be a kind of child to your main material, main entity. So the child entity we will be representing with always with type 4. Okay, now let's go back, create a new entry. Now I'll say here y plant. This is my type 4 entity. That means plant will be a kind of child information, child node for me. Okay, so I'm creating it as a type 4. Now, if you look at the description of the type 4 also, it says changeable via other entity. That means type 4 is always a dependent entity. Okay, you can change this dependent entity in the context of your parent entity. So the parent entity can be, it can be either another type 4 or it can be a type 1 also. Okay, for this one we have seen one simple example last time also I just explained. Let's say for example you have SU type 1 entity, which is nothing but your material entity name, and this material has a child that is another SU type 4. Okay, that is nothing but your plant information. Now this plant entity has again a subchild, so that is storage location information. Storage location information. So this also will be again another SU type 4 for us. Okay, so now here for this particular SU type 4, the dependent entity, the parent entity will become this one, and for this one the parent entity will become this one. Okay, now so this is what actually type 4 entity says, the description, changeable via other entity type. Okay, so the other entity in this context, this is the one, and in this context the other entity will become this one. It's a dependent entity. Okay, now here again as usual system will generate a staging tables also, generated database staging tables. So whether you wanted to change your type 1 entity material data or plant data, CR number is mandatory. Okay, so now system will generate a staging tables to store the attribute information data at your type 4 level. After this, you see here data element. This you cannot actually populate over here data element, because the data element can be applicable for your type 1 entity only. For type 4 you cannot maintain the data element. Even if you try to maintain, system will throw an error. Okay, so there is a reason why you don't want it to maintain the data element. We will discuss that shortly now. Okay, so after that you can see the language dependent text also, this is not applicable for your plant, because only at the material or the master data level you will maintain the master data description in multiple languages. So that means this will be applicable only for your type 1 entities.
Actually, quick question.
Yeah.
So data element, is that the same as the key? It's the same thing as a key element, product key?
Yeah, so this particular attribute is not applicable in case of type 4 entity. So this screen that you see over here, this is a common screen. You get it whether you are selecting it as a type 1 or type 4 or type 2 or type 3. Now, depends on the type that you are selecting. When I select type 1, data element will become mandatory. If I select type 4, this is not, we are not supposed to
So
maintain.
when you chose, so when you chose type 1, data element was mandatory. We put in MATNR, right?
Yeah.
Material number. So is material number going to be the product key? Is data element always for type 1? It's the product key?
Yes. 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 It's
Okay.
always part
Okay.
of the primary key. If you look at our staging table also here that we create.
Primary key. Yeah. Sorry,
Okay.
I said product key.
So material number, it's a part of, this is a part of the key. Okay. Now, for type 4, this is not mandate. I mean, we are not supposed to maintain it. It's not optional kind of thing. You are not supposed to maintain this data element. Why? We will discuss shortly.
Sure. Okay.
Now,
Thank you.
after that, all these attributes are not applicable because key you cannot key. There is no concept of key for your type 4 because this is basically at your master data level, at material level. That means at your type 1 entity level itself. So that your type 1 entity material, that is the primary key. And at plant level, you are extending the material to multiple plants. So the material number that you have at the parent entity, that will become your key here also. Okay. So you cannot actually maintain, even though if you try to maintain this information, it is not applicable. If you look at this, our UI application, okay, for material creation, this is in this basic data. One is your type 1. This is for your type 1 entity. So here I already have that key. So when I go to the plant level, at the plant level, I cannot actually change that keys. I cannot change my material key because that key is already fixed here. When I come to this plant, that time already my material number is already fixed. What is my material number? 22. So here there is no concept of generating temporary number, material number, or change material number. There is no such concept. So that's why the key assignment option is always, this particular property is applicable for your type 1 only. Even language dependent text also applicable for your type 1 attribute, type 1. Even attachments and sets, all these are applicable for your type 1 along with the data element. Data element also applicable for your type 1. For type 4, nothing. Just select your storage use type as type 4. And after that, all these things are not applicable for your type 4. Okay. The only thing that is applicable is you can maintain your own active area at type 4 level also. This we discussed last week. Active area is nothing but you can maintain this active area, provide an active area at your data model level and also at entity level. If you don't maintain any active area at entity level, that means your active area at data model level will be considered. Okay, so the other attribute that you can maintain, the description of your type 4 entity. So I'll say it's a plant extension, plant data. Okay, so once you save this information here for your type 4, I maintained this, and once you save it, okay, now you got 2 error messages over here. So these 2 error messages are very important when you are creating a type 4. Okay, why these 2 error messages are coming, that we will discuss. This also answers our question why the data element that we are not maintaining at type 4 level. Okay, so now let's look at the simple example here. I have my material, nothing but this is my SU type 1. Then this material, I have another plant entity. This is my SU type 4. Okay. Now my requirement is I'm creating a material 1000. Okay. Now this 1000 material I wanted to extend to 2 plants, Germany plant and France plant. Okay. So at plant level, how my data should look like? So it should look like 1000 material, and plant is Germany plant, and again 1000 plant, and the 1000 material, plant is France. Okay, now with this combination, I'll be maintaining the probably the ABC indicator value, maybe ABC indicator value. I'm just taking some examples, attributes over here. ABC indicator as A, and here ABC indicator as B, and plant the status. I'm selecting here it as X. So this is basically your Marcy data. So whatever you are maintaining over here, this is your material, and with the material and plant combination, we are maintaining this particular data. For this particular material, for this particular plant, this is the data, and with this combination, this is the data. So that is how your plant data will look like. Okay, now to have your staging table also, if you look at your plant staging table, it will look like something like this. Okay, so that your staging table for your plant is, you can on the ECC side, it will be your Marcy plant. For Marcy table, if you look at the keys, material number is your key and plant is your key. Okay, now let's go back to Marcy table and just I'll quickly show you. This is your for type 1 entity. For type 1 entity, you already have the key as your material number as a key. Okay, now if I go to Marcy table, which is nothing but the plant table, you can see here material and plant combination, you are maintaining all this data. Deletion flag, valuation category, then material status, so ABC indicator, so purchasing group. So all this information you are maintaining for this particular combination, for this material, and in this particular plant, this is the data that is applicable. That means here the primary key is, it's a composite key. Your material and plant combination you need to maintain. Now, in the same way, for my type 4, always your type 4 will have minimum one key, and in general you will have more than one key also, because here the keys are material and plant. Now at plant level, that means at your type 4 entity level, you cannot define keys directly. You cannot have a key directly at your type 4 entity level. Always the keys for this particular type 4 entity should come from your parents or somewhere, not directly. I cannot directly go to the plant entity, type 4 entity, and select this as my key. No, I don't have that option. Okay, in case of material, the data element you mentioned as Matner, so that entity itself will become your a key. But whereas in case of plant, the data element, you cannot actually maintain that data element value, because when I'm going for a child, because this child will have the keys, I mean more than one key from, okay, more than one key means here, how should I put I cannot have keys at my child level directly. The key has to come, one key always comes from your plant to, sorry, material to plant. One key will come from this one. How it will come? It will come through something called leading relation. There is some relation. So when you, as I said earlier, when you create more than one entity in a data model, you need to define the relation between those things. So that means now when I'm having another type 4, this type 4, I have to say that, okay, this is not an independent entity. It has a dependence. The parent is this one. So how I will represent this is my parent? I will represent by using this leading relation. So I will go to the relationship section. I will say that material entity is leading plant entity. That means your SU type 1 is leading SU type 4. And again, if you have further another child for this one, you can also say that this SU type 4 is leading another SU type 4. So something like that. So this is how you will be, whenever you create a type 4 entity, this relation is mandatory. And what is the impact when you say this relation? The key in your, the parent here, the key will automatically flow it when system generates the staging tables. So in the generated staging table, automatically your material will become one of the key at your plant staging table level. Okay, so that is the reason. If you go to this particular one error message, it says that you created a type 4 entity, but relationship type of leading is inconsistent. That means for type 4, it is expecting a leading relation. Okay. And for it is also expecting another relation. We will talk about this one. Okay. For now, still you can go ahead. Let's go ahead and add some attributes under your type 4 entity. Okay. I'll go back. I'm in YP data model. I'm in a type 4 entity. There I can click on new entry and I can add some attributes over here. Okay. So these attributes, let me refer some of the existing attributes from Marcy table only. So I will take maintenance status. Yeah, I'll take plants. This one. Data element same. Let me take one more. I'm just taking this ABC indicator. Okay, so are there any other attributes? Let's take this deletion flag as well. I'm just maintaining some attributes at my type 4 level. Okay, I just created 3 attributes. Okay, so this is fine. Now I just maintained only the non-key attributes over here. Okay, but still you will get this error message until you maintain this relationship. This is mandatory relationship. Okay, so now let's maintain the relationship, okay, between your type 1 and type 4. Okay, so Y prod and Y plant. Okay, go to relationships. System down. Just give me a minute, I'll drop it. I'll check why. Okay, so I just dropped a message. Yeah, let's check here meanwhile. Okay, so what happens is in this scenario we have material, and we have plant. Okay, so here I maintained 3 attributes: ABC indicator, then I also maintained some deletion flag and something else. Okay, so this is my SU type 4. Now when I try to save, I got the error message saying that that leading relationship is missing. Okay, so the leading relationship is mandatory when you have type 1 and type 4. Okay, so how do you maintain the leading relation? There is a relationship section is there. Once you go there, you need to mention your source and target entities. So that means your material, your type 1 will become the on the left hand side, the from entity. So you have something called there from entity and to entity, from entity and to entity, to entity. Okay, so in case of in place of from entity, you will provide your type 1 entity, and in case in place of to entity, you will provide your type 4 child entity. Okay, so now the type of relationship is leading. You are saying it's a leading relation. Once you create this particular row entry over there under relationship section, automatically one error will go away. Okay, and what is the impact with this one? When you add something like this, uh, here at the plant in the generated staging table, your material number will add as a one of the key in the generated staging table. Along with this particular attributes, this particular attribute will get added as a key because of this leading relationship. At entity level, you don't find this material one, but in the generated table level, you will see this as a key, because plant that your type 4 cannot have its own keys always. The key has to come, it has to derive from somewhere. That is how we are deriving it through the leading relationship. Okay, so now this is done. Now the other one is the another error message also you have. That error message, it is saying that something qualifying relationship. Similar to leading, it says that qualifying relationship is missing. Qualifying relationship is missing. Okay, so what it says is qualifying relationship is missing. Now, what is this qualifying relationship? Okay, so what happens is, if you look at this particular plant one, okay, usually whatever the plant that you are extending this particular material, you are extending to plant Germany, and you are extending the same material to, for example, India plant. So likewise, you are extending this particular plants. Okay, now these plants, we are not actually creating these particular plants. The plants are already available in my plant master. I have a plant master. T001W is a plant master table where we will be configuring all these plants. Okay, so the plants will be like Germany, India, okay, France. So likewise, you already have these plants. First, you need to create all these plants in the system. That is your through SPRO configuration. So this particular plant master data, we call it as a reference master data. Reference master data. That means here our intention is we are creating a material. While creating this particular material, I am extending these materials to the plants. I am not actually creating the plants. The plants already should exist. That means what happens is, whatever the plant that you are extending for this particular material, this plant should exist in your plant master table. That means it should qualify. Basically, it should be available in this table. That's why you will, whatever the data that plants that you are extending, so that particular plant has to be qualified. It has to be qualified in this particular table, your the plant table. Okay, now here for that, but how I, that means how I will represent that one is, I will create a kind of another SU type 3, one SU type 3 over here, and that SU type, this particular plant master T001W table plant master, I will represent using this SU type 3. Okay, so that means what happens is, here I'll create something called one another entity, plant master. I'll create one plant master entity over here, and this particular entity represents this T001W table. Okay, now whatever the plant that I'm entering in my type 4 entity, it should be available, as I said earlier, it should be available in this particular plant master. So the same thing I'm representing here, this particular, whatever the plant you are entering over here, it should be available in this particular plant master, because ultimately it will indirectly, it will go and refer this table only. Okay, so that means you create a type 3. Always your type 3 represents reference master data. It represents the reference master data. So you create a type 3 entity and we will discuss how to create the type 3. But once you create this particular type 3 entity, and here this is your master table, plant master, bigger one. So that means what you say is here from entity, your from entity will become, this is relationship 1 and this is relationship 2. So you say here your plant master, plant underscore master. This is nothing but your SU type 3. Okay. And your two entity become the same thing. Your plant will become your SU type 4. This is your SU type 4. Okay. Will become two entity. And here you will say qualifying relationship. Qualifying relationship. You just mentioned it as a qualifying relationship. Okay. So that means when you are, if you are working on a usually in ABAP, right? When you are creating a table, you refer it something with a foreign key. What does that mean? So when you say foreign key, it will go and look into the table. So the value that you are entering here, if it doesn't exist in the foreign table, you will get an error message. So that means I can extend this material to those plants, those which are already only existing in this particular plant master entity or my type 3 entity. Okay. So with this one, I'm creating a qualifying relationship for my type 4. So when you, what happens, what is the impact over here? With this relationship, the plant will add here, in addition to the material, in addition to material, you already have one key here, material as a one key. Okay. And with this qualifying relationship, system will add in the generated staging table plant as another key. And that key is coming from your type 3. From your type 3, you are getting the other key. So what are the required keys I need for my type 4? One key I'm getting through the SU type 1, from SU type 1 via leading relationship. Another key I'm getting from SU type 3 using qualifying relationship. So you will create non-key attributes under your type 4 entity, and using the relationships, you will derive the keys in the generated staging table for your type 4 entity.
Akshay, I have a question about foreign key.
Yes.
So, so for the foreign key, plant master would be considered a foreign key, right? So plant would be considered a foreign key. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes.
And then, so would material also be considered foreign key, or no? Because if you type in the wrong material, you will not. It'll cause an error, right?
I didn't understand. That means what you are saying is when you try to create a material, it will go and check in my Mara table, something like that.
Yes, yes, because you said if foreign key, if value you enter is not in the other table, then it'll cause an error. So material, it's the same thing, right? You enter the wrong material. No,
because see here, qualifying means which is something which should already existing in the table. I will go and validate whether this plant is existing in my plant master or not. But in case of material, what happens is, assume that I'm creating a new material. That time that material won't be available in my Mara table. That is that there here our intention is we are creating the material which is not existing. It's a new creation. So that time, so ideally it won't available in my Mara table. So that's why it's a leading relationship. Leading means what here important is the key. So whatever the key that it got generated at my type 1 entity level, that will become my key in my plant. Here if it generates $123, now here in my plant level, the key will be $123.
I see. So it leads the way.
Exactly. It is, that's why it's a leading one. It can be a temporary material number or external, whatever it may be, whether it's already existing or not existing in the system. But there I will have some material key at my type 1 level, right? That key I will get at my plant level using leading relation. Whether that key is already available, it is not actually a foreign key lookup. It won't go and look up into your Mara table. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, but when it comes to the plant, right? So we are not actually, along with the material, I'm not creating the plant. Plant is my reference master data. Okay, so the reference master data should be already available in the system. It should be already configured. Some of the examples, your plants, your sales organizations, your purchasing organizations, your valuation areas, okay, and your currencies, your country, all these we call it as a reference master data. When I'm creating my material, this reference master data should be already available. All my plant sales arcs, all this information should be configured and available. Then only I can use my, while creating the material, I can use this reference master data.
I see. Okay. Thank you for explaining.
Okay. So now that's where, wherever you have such kind of reference master data you wanted to refer, that's where you can make use of the qualifying relationship. It will be as good as your foreign key lookup only. So when you are making a qualifying relationship, that means it will go and look into that the table, and if the plant is existing, then your material can be extended to the plant. If that 1000 plant itself is not configured in my system, it is not available in my T001 table, then I cannot extend my material to that particular plant.
Okay.
Okay. Now let me summarize that. So we are actually talking about here two more entities. We know we already discussed about SU type 1, SU type 1. Now this SU type 1 is leading my SU type 4. So whenever I create an SU type 4, I will add all the non-key attributes over here, like ABC indicator, then deletion flag, then plant status. Okay, but I'm not maintaining any keys over here. But at material level, at the entity type, entity itself, name of the entity itself will become your key. That means my material entity itself is my key. Now this particular one, I'm making a leading relationship, leading relation. Okay, that means SU type 1 leading SU type 4. So in the relations section, once I create this particular relationship, the first error will go away. And with what is the impact with this relationship? In the generated staging table, your material will become key. Material, you will, once the staging table got generated for this one, you will also find material as a one of the key field over there. But if you look at the entity level, you will find only these are the three attributes that you can see as a direct attributes. This attribute is coming through the leading relationship in the generated staging table. Okay, so now I got one key. The other key I will be getting via SU type 3. That is, I'll create a plant master, plant underscore master. Okay, SU type 3, and always SU type 3 doesn't have any attributes under it. It's just a simple plant master. It will hold only the list of plants. There is no other attributes under this one. So in case of SU type 3, you cannot maintain the attributes under SU type 3. Whereas in SU type 1 and SU type 4, you can add an attributes. You can add attributes like SU type, under SU type material entity, we added material type, material group, industry sector. In plant type 4, we added these attributes. Okay, in case of SU type 3, okay, you will have only the entity itself. Here also entity itself will become your key. Okay, similar to your SU type 1, SU type 3 also, the plant this itself will become your key. Okay, and what happens is, when you make a qualifying relationship here with this entity, that means I will create here under the relationships SU type 3 qualifying SU type 4. So when I make this kind of relationship, okay, then what happens is, system will generate in the generated staging table, I will get plant as a additional key. That means my two keys are coming from two relationships. One is via leading and one is via qualifying. Okay, so here this SU type 3, okay, we need to be very careful. This SU type 3, there is no staging tables generates for SU type 3. Only the staging tables gets generated for type 1 and type 4 only. For type 3, there won't be any staging tables gets generated. This SU type 3 always represents your plant master, that is your T001 table. So that table is already available, that your T001W table or the plant master table, that will be already available. It should be already available because it's a reference master data. So it should be already available in the system. So we are just the table we are actually representing using this particular SU type 3 only. That's it. Okay. If at all I have to draw one more picture for this one. If you look at the MDG system, okay, so this is MDG layer and this is your ECC layer. Okay, in ECC layer you have SPRO configuration. As part of SPRO configuration, as part of SPRO configuration, you can create a plants, and once you create the plants in SPRO, it will get stored into T001W table. This is your plant master table. Okay, now here in MDG layer, I am creating one SU type 1. I created one SU type 4. I maintained a leading relation between these two, and I created one SU type 3. This SU type 3, I will link this existing table. So there is no need to create a staging table in MDG layer. It always represents this table. And I'll be creating a qualifying relationship here. Okay, that's why if you look at the description of SU type 3, it says that no generated tables. Why no generated tables? Because when you are creating SU type 3, I will say this is the reference table. So here we are actually, we are not creating a plant, right? So we are using the plant, we are using this plant for qualifying that one. So that's why there is no generated staging table when you create something SU type 3. You go and create an SU type 3 only when something is already available under your ECC layer in terms of table. Only for that one you go and create an SU type 3 table. Now, because of this leading and qualifying, in SU type 4, I will get material as a key, and I'll also get a plant as a key. Okay, this is coming from leading relation, this is coming from qualifying relation, and all other non-key attributes. So this is what you can see in my generated staging table. Okay, clear?
Yes, clear. Yes.
Okay. So we need to create the type 3. What happened?
Actually, I have one more question.
Yes, yes.
So SU type 4, if it can also be a, what's that, in a relationship with another SUT type 4, correct?
Yes, that's true.
So when you're doing a relationship with both, do you also have to mention the SUT type 1 as a relationship to 4?
Yeah, good question. So that is the next level, one more down. Okay, so let's look at this. SU type 1, you have SU type 1, and you have SU type 4. Here it's a leading, and you have SU type 3. It's a qualifying. So we are good here till now. Okay, and after that, assume that you have one more child over here, one more SU type 4. That means here I'm taking this as an example of, here the key is material, here the key is, let me put with a different color. So here the key is material, here the key is, here, and basically it's a plant. This SU type 3 represents, because of leading and qualifying, I'll be getting material and plant as a 2 keys over here in the generated staging table. Now what happens is, here between these two SU type 4s, I can have a leading relation because this is my type 1. Okay. Now, because of this leading relationship, I'm creating here, because of this leading relation here, I will get material as a key. What is the key in the parent entity for this particular type 4? This is the parent. And what is the key in this one? The key is material and plant. So here now what happens is, because of this leading relation, these both will become as a keys over here. But that is not sufficient. I need one more SU type 3 here. And if I make a qualifying relation, I'll get, assume that this is a storage location. So here I'll get my storage location as a another key. See here, just to put this one, this particular one is an optional. Actually, it's not mandatory. It's an optional. You can actually, without this one also, you can go ahead and create SU type 4. So, but what happens is, in your this one and this one, you will have the same keys. But ideally, when if you have the this SU type 4 and this SU type, if we have the same keys, you no need to go for a separate table, right? You can add those attributes here also directly, because you have both set of tables are sharing the same key. Then what is the point in having going for a separate staging table? You will go for a separate staging table only when you have one more level down where the key combination is this much, and at this combination you wanted to maintain some data.
Right? So this SU type 3 for storage location, this would be the storage location for that particular plant, correct?
Exactly. Yes. So this SU type 3 represents the, if you have some for storage location, there is some table. Something like the master data table will be there. So
MARD function.
Yeah, yeah. So you'll have some staging table, right? So that staging, that particular staging table, it represents that, but it will represent that particular staging table. Sorry, the actual ECC table.
Okay.
Okay, so likewise you can keep on extending. You can create a number of levels uh, uh, by using this leading and qualifying.
I have one more question actually before we jump into that.
Yeah.
Can we write this out? So the relationship for the SU type 4 that was created for plant material storage location. So how would you write that in the relationship folder? It would be from entity.
Yes. Let me draw that as well. So now what we are discussing here is
from entity to entity.
Yes.
4. Yeah.
We put here first SU type 1, SU type 4. This is a leading relation, and I also have SU type 3. This is a qualifying relation, and from this particular SU type 4, I have one more child. This is again another SU type 4. Okay, here between these two things, the leading relation, and I'll define one more SU type 3, and I'll make a one more qualifying relationship. Okay, now you, in the relationships, you will be having something like this: from entity to entity.
So actually there's a little bit of a drag. Not able to see. Okay, there's a delay from when you write it to when I could see it. So
okay, yeah. Okay, I think they said it's up. Okay, so from entity to entity and relationship name. Okay, now in from let's first take this example. Okay, so this scenario. So the from entity will be here your material is your from entity, to entity is your plant, and relationship is leading. Okay, and with this one, this is assume that this is your plant master, okay. In this case, plant master, is your from entity. Again, the same type for plant will become your to entity. Here the relationship is qualifying relationship. Okay. Now, after this, what happened this? Okay. So after this, now let's talk about the another dependent entity, this SU type 4. For this one, the leading relation is your plant. This is your plant, right? So now this plant will become plant is from entity, and this is storage location. So storage location, you will say as a two entity. Sorry, here storage location. Okay. Now here the you'll say leading relationship.
Okay.
Now, this is your storage location master. Then you will say here storage location master is my from entity, storage location is my to entity, qualifying is the relationship here. Okay. Now always remember the shortcut technique. From entity should be always the higher one. Higher one means here in this particular scenario, material is the your type 1 entity which is higher, and your plant is a child one. Now in the second case, plant master. So plant master is on higher side because plant master can contain maybe thousands of plant, but you are extending that material to just a subset. So still your plant will become a smaller one. So this plant master is the master data table, right? So this will be an higher entity. Okay. And here in this case, plant and storage location, plant is an higher entity. Under a plant, you have a child entity storage location. So that's why your plant will become on the from entity side, and your storage location is the child to your plant. So it will become a two entity. Similarly, this SU type 3 is a storage location master, this one. So it will become a from entity, and again your type 4 will become storage location is a two on the two entity side. So usually always remember on the left hand side it will be a bigger entity, on the right hand side it will be a smaller entity.
There's also material, right? For the key for plant.
Yeah. So here you are talking about this
sorry,
type 4, right?
Storage location. There's three keys: plant, material, storage location.
Yeah. So that plant and that's what. Okay. If you look at the this one, I'll just highlight that particular portion. Okay. If you look at this particular diagram, you are making a leading relation here, right?
Okay.
So this leading relation means automatically this is already contains your material and plant as a key.
Okay.
So that's why when I just make a leading relation, I no need to make again another leading relation between these two things. That this SU type 1 also, I mean, actually flows through your this one via your intermediate SU type 4.
Okay.
That make a simple leading relation is enough for us. Clear?
Clear. Thank you.
Yeah. Now let's go to the system. They mentioned it's up. Okay, we'll go to MDG IMG. Okay, so YP, go to entities. So we created type 1 and type 4, but when you try to save, you are getting that two error messages because this it expects one leading and one qualifying. So I'll go to relationships, by prod, by plant. Okay. So now here you can see here, click on new entry, from entity and to entity. So as I said, from entity will be here in this example, our type 1, that is Y prod. Okay. And to entity will become okay. You can to entity will be it's a Y plant, your type 4. Now you can just name this relationship. So any name, I'll say prod underscore plant, something like this. You can give any name. Now the relationship type is leading relationship. Leading relationship. Okay. Along with the leading relationship, we also need to mention the cardinality. So cardinality is 1:n. 1:n means one material can be extended to n number of plants. Okay, so that is where 1:n. Now you also have something called 0:n. 0:n means without material also I can have multiple plants. So that is not true in our case. Okay, so that's why in your type 1, between type 1 and type 4, always it will be 1:n. That means first on the left hand side plant material should be there. For that particular material, you can extend that material to multiple plants. So that's why it's a 1:n relationship. Okay, always between your type 1 and then type 4, it will be 1:n relationship only. This 0:n is applicable basically when you have two type 4s. The same example, storage plant and storage location. In this case, your I mean, if again there also it's a 1:n relation only. 0:n, let me think about if I can get an use case. But most of the I have never seen that 0:n scenario. It will be 1:n only. So basically 0:n means on the left hand side it will be 0. That means without that one also you can extend it to n. But I let me think about some use case. But most of the time, usually for the leading and qualifying, it will be always 1:n relationship only. Okay. So now
if the first one is not there, then what you will extend it to? I mean,
that's why yeah, if first one is not there, you cannot extend it, right? So that's why it's always 1:n. One is being it's a mandatory.
Okay, understood.
Okay. Now when I try to save, if you look at this particular data model, there are two errors are there. Now you'll see only one error message. So the leading error gone, and you'll have only the qualifying relationship error. Okay. So for qualifying relationship error, let's save it now. How to create a qualifying relation? But before creating a qualifying relation, first I need to create a type 3. So how to create the type 3? Let's look at that. Go to entities. Okay. Here, click on new entry. I wanted to create a new entity. So this is my, I'll say, Y plant master. Y plant underscore M. I'm just saying Y plant master. This is my type 3. Now, how do you define it as a type 3? You storage use type, you need to set it as a type 3. Okay. Now look at the description of this one. No generated tables. That means, as I said, system MDG doesn't generate any staging table. Instead of that one, we need to link it to the existing table over there. Okay. Okay. So we will see how to link the table over here. Now also you can see not changeable via MDG. This means you cannot change the plant via MDG. You can change the material and all that stuff, but you cannot change the plant data, because plant can be changed. Some of the plant attributes can be changed via your SPRO configuration. Plant master data, you cannot change it. You can only use the plant, the 1000 plant, you can use it for this material extent, but you cannot change with the plant is attached to say company code or something, right? So those kind of attributes you cannot change it. So that means here what it says is Type 3 data you cannot change. That means your plant data you cannot change it. Only you can just use that plant data for your material creation process. Similarly, there won't be any generated staging tables. Now, how do you link this particular? Now I just created an entity type, but I wanted to link it to my plant master. How do I link to my master data, plant master data? For that one, always go to SC11. I'll just show you here. Take example of Marcy plant. Okay, Marcy table. I just wanted to look at that the master table for plant. Works underscore D. Basically, we will be linking this particular data element here. That means what happens is when I link this data element, it will go inside this data element. It is linked to the value table. If I double click this plant and sorry, this domain, go to value range. You have this T001W. This is your plant master table. This is what your plant master table, right? So all the plants that you create through SPRO configuration get stored into this particular plant master table. So like this plant has, this is the valuation area, then you will have that calendar factory, all the street, plant address, all those information. This you will create through SPRO configuration and the data gets stored over here. Now, if I link the data element over here, okay, if I link the data element over here, that means this entity, type 3 entity represents the T001W table. Under this data element is linked to a domain and that domain refers that T001W table. That is how we are linking this particular type 3 entity to the existing T001W table as a plant master table. That's it. Okay. And after this, you can just maintain the description. All these attributes are not applicable for your type 3. Okay. And just maintain the description over here. Plant master. Okay. And save it. And you are not supposed to maintain any attributes. Only you will maintain the attributes under a particular entity if at all you wanted to maintain the data. I mean, maintain those attributes. Okay. For type 1 and type 4, that is where you are maintaining the material and material plant extension attributes. So that's why you are going there and adding the attributes that you wanted to maintain through MDG. But in this case, there is no attribute that we are modifying for this particular type 3. So that's why even if you go and add some attributes over here under type 3, system will throw an error message. For type 3, it won't accept attributes. Only for type 1 and type 4, you can add the attributes. Similarly, data element can be maintained only for type 1 and type 3. For type 4, if you maintain the data element, again, you will get an error message. Okay. So now after this, now I created a type 3. So what I will do is I'll maintain the relationships. Now I'll add a qualifying relationship. Okay. Here, as I said earlier, on the left hand side, it will be your what do you call it? It will be the bigger table or bigger entity. So plant master is my master table for the plant. I'll give some relationship name, plant. Okay, I'm just saying it's a plant only, and your type 4 entity. And it's a qualifying relationship. And always for qualifying, it will be 1:n as the cardinality. There is no other cardinality it will accept, 1:n. Okay. Now, when you try to save this one, now if you see, all the errors will be gone, because as soon as you introduce type 4, immediately system expects 2 additional relationships, because type 4 need those keys. That's why it expects those 2 additional relationships. Now there is no error. We are good. Let's activate the data model and look at your staging tables. Okay, YP data model, click on activate. So this time what happens is, now for type 4 system will generate a staging table, and in the staging table you will see the attributes that we added through the relationships, right? The leading and qualifying, there will be 2 keys, and other non-key attributes you'll have some ABC indicator, plant status, deletion flag as a non-key attributes there. It's still activating. Let's wait. Okay, transport. Okay, this warning is fine. This is fine. So now the data model got activated. Now let's look at the generated staging table. MDG underscore data underscore model. Wipe is the data model and execute. Okay, now let's interpret this one. So all other things that we have seen earlier, the newly row, you can see this is the one. Okay, so here the entity is main entity, parent entity is your type 1 Y prod. Under that one, you see this Y plant got added as a included entity type or the child entity, and you can see the staging table name that got generated for your type 4. Okay, now in this generated, this is a generated staging table. If you look at this, this is your type 1. This is the primary key, material primary key coming from your type 1, and this is a plant key that is coming from your type 3 entity. Okay, and this is coming from your, okay, if you look at this one here, this is your entity name itself. Your entity name itself, type 3 entity name itself will added as a attribute, as a key attribute. This is also your entity name itself. Okay, now USMD key, anyway, it will get added automatically by the MDG framework to indicate it's an active record or inactive record, and all other attributes that you can see over here, your material deletion flag, and then ABC indicator, plant specific status. So these are the 3 attributes that we added at a type 4 entity level as a non-key fields, and these 2 got added from the relationships. Okay, is this clear?
Yeah, it's clear.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. So I'll stop for today here, and tomorrow there is one more. We discussed about type 1, type 3, and type 4. These are the commonly used entities that 99.99% we will use only these 3 entities, whether it is a MM extension or custom data models or BP extension or anything. We only use these 3. Okay, in fact we don't use at all type 1 entity for MM and BP, because for MM and BP already the type 1s are already there, your material and business partner. only we will be adding some childs, the custom attributes in the form of child entities. Okay, so that's where if you are doing an extension to MM or BP, most of the time you will be working on only type 4 and type 3, because when you add a type 4, you need to add type 3. So that's why I'm saying that for MM and BP, the data model extensions, you will be dealing with only type 4 and type 3s. When you are going for a custom data model, that's where you will create your own type 1 also, your main primary master data. Okay, so that's why type 1, type 2, sorry, type 3 and type 4 will be commonly used. Okay, type 2 we will be very rarely we use type 2. So tomorrow I'll introduce type 2, purpose of the type 2 and what is the purpose of type 2. And also we need to, we discussed about today leading and qualifying. There is one more relationship, is there referencing relation. We will discuss that one also tomorrow. After these two things, our data model is fully activated, fully done. Then there are few other concepts are there under the data model, business object type, that also we will discuss. So with that one, tomorrow we can close the data model topic.
Good overview. Akshay, general question here. The data models that you're showing and eventually the next process models and all the stuff, is it the same approach regardless whether you use NWBC or whether it's a Fiori tiles?
Yes,
for you?
exactly.
Okay.
That's true. Fiori or NWBC are the two kind of flavors on the user interface side. Whether you create a material master data using NWBC or you create using Fiori, in the backend, it uses the same your MDG configuration. Your MDG IMG configuration remains same. Okay, just Fiori and your data models, your process model, your the data rules, replications, everything remains same. The only front end part, the user experience, right, whether it's a Fiori enabled UI or it's NWBC, that's the only difference.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we will see most of the time 80 to 90% we will be learning our this one using NWBC. Once this is done, then we will get into Fiori and we'll see some of the Fiori. In Fiori, mostly it will be the standard apps. We will just use it as is for the end users to approve the request or to create the request. Okay, the backend configuration remains same. Okay, so we will discuss Fiori also later. Okay, great.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks,
So
Akshay.
for today here, and we'll continue our discussion tomorrow. Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.